Hello and welcome back to Reactivity TV. I'm Amy Albero and I'm a licensed therapist.
I am Chris. I am not a licensed therapist. I'm also not Catherine, but I am a husband and I have some opinions about this show.
Which we are going to get into today as we discuss Bachelor in Paradise Season 9, Episode 2.
Reality therapist perception.
Bachelorette. Before we get into this episode, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It is such a small thing, small amount of effort that actually goes such a long way in helping us continue to get content out there to you guys.
And also, please make sure to hit the bell icon so that you are notified anytime that we post additional content.
Yep, and we've got a lot coming, so you're going to want to get that notification. So we're going to do a deep dive into this episode, but let's do a quick overview first. Apparently, while it's episode 2, it is just day 2 of Paradise. A lot happened in that first episode, apparently. So we're only at day 2.
Apparently, we're flying through Golden Bachelor and we're crawling through.
Yes.
So
it's day 2. Avan arrives on the beach and he gets a date card, and he and Kylee have Kylie's long-awaited one-on-one date with Avan. We also get a visit from the queen of Bachelor Nation, Hannah Brown, and she definitely heats things up with a paradise bonfire. And we end with a rose ceremony. So a lot happened in this episode.
it felt like there was a lot of content. It also did not feel like it was 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. Well, we watched it on Hulu without commercial, so it was only an hour and 20 to be fair.
Okay, that's fair. But yeah, it felt like things were really moving. Again, similar to what I've said in the past, nothing was unpredictable. Everything was sort of predictable. But I think it worked. It kind of goes to show that being predictable is fine as long as it's entertaining and appealing, and there's, you're playing to kind of what the crowd is looking for and wants. And again, I feel like this episode gave us everything we were expecting to the degree and level with which we were hoping to get it.
Yeah. I mean, I love this episode. I found it so entertaining. I felt like I laughed the whole time. There was a little bit of like Schadenfreude happening where I was like definitely reveling in other people's misery.
It was a roller coaster evening, right? We're crying, then we're laughing, and then there's a little crying again at the end. It was all, it was a roller coaster.
Chris is referencing my experience watching The Golden Bachelor, which we talk more about in part A. But yes, it was quite a roller coaster. I'm exhausted. Can I just tell you, my emotions have been all over the place today. So where do you want to begin?
Let's just start with, the Avan entrance. Can I just point out, I understand that Avan, he's well thought of within the Bachelor community, from what I can gather. When I mean the Bachelor community, I mean within the contestants of the Bachelor, right? And it seems that a lot of people within Bachelor Nation share that sentiment, and he seems to. But not being a watcher of this show prior to this podcast, he just kind of falls very flat and dull for me. Like, I don't understand. I think he's a very attractive individual.
Yeah.
I think he seems like a nice guy. But I'm just not seeing any.
He's no
sort
Tyler
of,
Cameron.
We could touch on him later. We'll talk about him later. Get any ideas?
Here's the thing. I agree with you. But you have to remember context here. He was a contestant on Gabby and Rachel's season. That was a season where there were essentially 2 shows going on at the same time. So we got to meet these men like very minimally. We got no exposure to Avan other than he's an attractive guy and seems like a nice guy. that was the most I've ever heard him speak. On the entire season. We heard more from him in the hour and 20 minutes than we did the entire season. And so I don't think anybody really knew what to expect from Avan other than he's a good looking guy that seems like a nice guy. So I was honestly a little disappointed.
He kind of seems like just kind of a drag as a hang. Like I said, like
just seemed a little like he didn't have any riz. So he comes down with the date card. He meets with Kylee immediately. What did you think about that, their interaction?
Oh my God. I thought Kylee completely torpedoed any chance of having a meaningful relationship with Avan. I was actually surprised when he actually picked her. The way she was sort of like simping all over him and just the making herself overly sort of, we'll say, available. Men overwhelmingly, there's something about the chase, right? There's a biological imperative. There's this anthropological thing where we all people kind of want what they can't have. But if something is too easy for a man, he devalues it. And this is just a psychological thing about men. And I just felt like she completely devalued herself in the dating pool for Avan as a result. So I was actually quite surprised when he ended up picking her.
You could tell she sort of was hearing herself talk out loud because
trying to fix
then she said something like, well, I'm a hot commodity here,
which didn't play well in my mind either.
No.
That just made it worse.
Well, and yeah, I don't know that I would describe, like, it wasn't giving like being available to me. Like, yeah, like I guess in retrospect I saw it that way, but it was all like so insecure and so immature. Like that's what it felt like. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, nothing wrong with maybe being a little bit more forward with your intentions or your interest in meeting this person in real life and going on a date. I wish she could do it with confidence.
Sure. Yeah.
If she had engaged with him in a different way, in a way that actually owned her feelings and her intentions and where she was at, that might have come off as more appealing or more attractive. Every time Kylee was on the screen again this week, I knew it. I knew this was going to happen. But every single time she came on the screen, I was like, I hate her.
Yeah. I do want to contrast that because the next woman he pulls is Olivia. Now, I don't think highly of Olivia either when it comes to grading her maturity level. But did you see the contrast between these two? Olivia, she was like, nah, you know what? I'm going to play this cool, right? And when you see how Olivia, they both indicated in the face to cameras that they were both very interested, which I question whether Olivia is really interested or is this a catty situation?
Similar to Kylee last week. She was interested in Avan being interested in her.
Exactly. And I think it was Kylee wanted Will because Will was with Olivia. And now I question, did Olivia only want to be with Avan because Kylee wanted to be with Avan? And that's certainly the edit, what we're supposed to believe from the edit. But when you just look at the contrast between Kylee and how Olivia handled their conversations with Avan, one played it really cool. And I really thought that she was going to get the date. And the other one was kind of a puddle, right?
So what do you think it says about Avan that he went with Kylee over Olivia?
Well, so it actually touches on right off the bat, what is one of the first things they said when they do go on the date? They address the fact that the thirst trap pictures and whatnot. I think that what is he, probably 30, give or take, somewhere in that context, 20s. Late 20s. I think that he is still ultimately young in letting certain factors drive his opinion-making decision that something like an older, like a Gary or somebody older would see through and not let that drive his decision-making. I can tell you I'm 40 at this point in time. The thirst trap pictures and whatever, that's not going to get a date with me, right?
That would be a turnoff for you. I think.
That would be a turnoff. Yeah, absolutely. The way Olivia played it, if I'm sitting between the two of those, the way Olivia played it, where I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm here, I'm interested, if you're interested, you let me know. But like, I'm not here for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll be here with you
Mm-hmm.
if you're interested.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not interested, there are other men on the beach.
Mm-hmm.
That is how you play that. That is how you get a man to show interest in you, long-term potential interest in you.
Mm-hmm. Like what goes a long way in dating is to be a secure dater. And attachment styles for me came up a lot in this episode. So we're going to come back to that. But the idea, what appealed to you about me was that I had my own life. I had my own stuff going on. I had interests beyond dating or dating you specifically. And
well, I didn't have interest in you dating other people.
well, just that there was more to my world or within my orbit than just you and dating and getting married and all of that stuff. And so I think that there is a lot of meaning in that. It's also helpful when you get into a relationship that you still remain secure and independent and not too enmeshed and interdependent or codependent. And so I think that is what is really relevant when you are in the dating world, that you are your number one, not your whatever suitors or like the people that you're dating. Well, okay. Well, so we digress. Avan and Kylee go on their one-on-one. This had me actually cackling when they get on the boat.
I bring it back to did the producers Hell's Kitchen him with the cork?
That was amazing.
I
hope so.
Like he is significantly more muscular than I am.
Mm-hmm.
He's
never opened a bottle of champagne before.
I have never
clearly never worked a wine key before.
Oh my God, he was doing it backwards, wasn't he?
He was turning it the wrong way. Obviously he went too far down. I mean, he
didn't understand how you clip it and push. It was all bad.
Bad.
Oh
bad,
God.
Bad.
Unattractive.
Maybe a new segment should be what gave Amy the ick this week, because last week it was Will falling into the pool and his recovery. This week it was Avan not being able to open a bottle of champagne.
Oh my God.
Just like immediately turn off.
And it was so weird because they were trying to like continue the conversation and it just wasn't hitting, and it was all so awkward. And but the good thing about it is Kylee made some blunders there in how she was phrasing things, and he was so distracted that I don't think he really picked up on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think she was attacking the date up in the right way at the front end. But he was so distracted by this cork that I think he just completely missed it.
Did he ever get it open?
He did get it open. I feel like he might have been done dirty there.
Listen, while we talked about this on part A with the Golden Bachelor, you had asked me a question about if I thought the producers had a hand in something. And I was like, I hope that's not the case. No way. I hope not. In this case, I fucking hope so. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so they have their date on the boat. They make out quite a bit. They seem to obviously be attracted to each other. One of them says in a face to camera, like, that they have a lot in common. We didn't really
what did they talk
see anything.
They talked about where they lived.
Mm-hmm.
What else did they talk about?
I don't know.
We saw?
Kylee shared while he was opening the bottle. Kylee shared that she's a nurse.
Her profession and where she lives.
They talked about thirst traps, and prior to their date, I think they had talked about how there was like a lot of buildup and expectation around like their meetings.
What a complete letdown! Like I think Kylee misplayed that. She should have instead of running over there, should have held back a little bit and waited till he was done with, the crowd in front of him, and then, had his direct focus square off to him and, get the hug and the hello and the thing in there. The way she just sort of kind of rushed over there, was part of the crowd, and he's just trying to say hi to everybody. Totally misplayed it. It was a great opportunity to really stand out, be the girl in that, in the movie where everyone's over here and you're standing back and the crowd opens, the clouds part, and there's the ray, and you're just right there in front of him. That was her moment. Missed opportunity.
Whatever. Let them be together. So while Avan and Kylee are on the date, we get graced with a visit from the queen herself, Hannah Brown.
You were just raving about her last episode, and I am more confused now than I was. So you described her as, and correct me if I'm paraphrasing incorrectly, the greatest bachelorette in the history of the series, a force and an icon, basically. Now, I understand where that came from because you are clearly not alone. The women on Paradise were falling over themselves. But what I wasn't actually paying attention to was the women. I was paying attention to the men. And did you even notice the men's reactions?
They barely had a reaction.
Barely had a reaction. And this is, I think, a really, really important thing. We talk all the time about women will sometimes dress for other women and will sometimes dress for men. You know, and like women will find other women attractive that or rate women's beauty very different than the way a man would. And this is like a classic situation, I think, a classic example where like she's, you know, of average beauty, right? She's of average beauty. There was nothing about her personality that jumped off the page to me that was like, oh, and we didn't get that long with her, but like just the little time we got with her, I was like, I mean, I wouldn't date her. You know, not for me. All the other guys, there were, you know, you got a couple of the kind of obligatory, oh yeah, she's hot, I hope she's here to date. But even those were not really said with any genuine feeling. And so I just found it really interesting, the contrast between how these women are putting her on a pedestal as some icon, and the men really just didn't seem to care at all and were not really feeling it or into it. So give it to me. Why is she an icon, and how did you feel about the whole thing?
We don't have enough time to get into why she's an icon, but Hannah was the unexpected choice for Bachelorette. We watched her essentially grow up in her Bachelorette season, or grow into herself, grow more empowered and more confident throughout her season. We see her so insecure and uncomfortable and not confident to the end of the season, where she is like loud and proud about the choices that she is making. She just, some of the choices that she actually did make were iconic, whether it was moving the podium or having sex with Peter Weber in the windmill 4 times and Jesus Still Loves Me. Like, it was amazing. And she was like just so lovable. Like, she is a very endearing, kind of down to earth type of girl. Like, she is a pageant girl. So when she was on Colton's season as a contestant, she was much more like
dolled up.
Tried to be a lot more put together, but that's just like not who she is. So she was like quite uncomfortable on Colton's season. And so we saw her kind of get like a little undone and messy. And that, I think, was, as a viewer and as a woman, awesome to kind of see like her messiness. And she owned her sexuality in a way that, again, on this show, we never see that. And so it was like such a turning point for the franchise. And then she went on to go on Dancing with the Stars, top performer on Dancing with the Stars. Then she went on to Special Forces just recently and fucking won. I mean, she is incredible. So we'll have to watch her season, I guess, is what you're saying, so that you
I'm not sure that's what I'm saying.
I think that's what you're saying.
So before we realized that she was there to just stir up some trouble, she was grabbing men 2 at a time. And my question was, and I wrote it down, and it's a little bit irrelevant now, but I'm still going to ask it, is grabbing 2 at a time common, or was that a power move? Was that her way of coming on the beach? I thought it was like, is this her way of coming on the beach and be like, I'm Hannah Brown, bitches, I'm taking 2 y'all at a time? Like, what? power move or no?
I think honestly, like she was there to stir the pot. And so I think that's what she was doing, like keeping everybody on their toes and having it be unpredictable.
And she probably had a limited amount of time, and she actually probably wanted to stir the pot by talking to everybody that she could, right? So it was really probably more a reflection on production time and less of,
right. And the role that she was there to play. Yeah. Right. And I wish we did a count of how many times everyone asked, is she here to date? It was upwards of 10.
Easily, yeah. Now, did you know, because you follow all the stuff on all the tiki-taki stuff, did you know that she was engaged?
Yes, she just got engaged, actually.
Okay, so you must have known that she wasn't there to date.
Correct. It was unclear, like, why she would be there. She's also distanced herself from the franchise, basically, since she was the Bachelorette. So it shocked me that she came back, because we've not heard a peep from her. And she, again, rarely associates with the franchise. She's like very much moved on. So I was more like, I wonder like what she's doing here. But I knew she wasn't there to date, because even prior to her engagement, she's been in a long-term relationship with someone for many years.
I got a question for you now, because, and this is important, and this is something I just might have learned. Maybe it's not real. You tell me. You're not paid to be on The Bachelor or Bachelorette, but you are paid to be on Paradise.
Yes.
I mean, that is a massive perverse incentive structure. As somebody with an economics background, economics is a study of how people respond to incentives. I think this is a perfect case study of that's clearly impacting decisions, right? People are paid how long they're there. They're paid a stipend.
Depends what they can negotiate. So I don't know, someone like Rachel, she has a lot more clout, and she might be able to get paid like a lump sum, regardless of how long she stays. Whereas someone who maybe a night oneer,
Sam or somebody like that with no leverage,
they might just get paid by the day, and I don't know what the rate would be. So yeah.
So there's an actual monetary component to this. Also, it's bi-directional. Production, if they have a Rachel on a show and say they give her X $1,000 or whatever to be there,
they're incentivized.
They're incentivized to keep her there.
So Hannah, like in the midst of Hannah being there and enter the bonfire later, we see a couple of dynamics unfolding on the beach. We see an Aaron B, Eliza, Mercedes love triangle, which we'll get to in the bonfire. But we also see Will start to spiral,
fall apart completely.
And he's talking about how anxious he is about Kylee being on the date. And he had, prior to Kylee going on the date, said, I'm basically all in on you. Like, I support your decision to go and explore this connection, but like, I'm not interested in anyone else. I'm here for you. And then she leaves, and he's left with this reality that Kylie's on a date with a good-looking guy, and he doesn't know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew this was coming. Olivia called it dead on. I don't think anybody was surprised by this. I think the biggest surprise is that Will was surprised. You said that, he was talking about his anxiety. I kind of disagree. I think it was full on to an F-32-9. I mean, he was pretty low, real down.
For our viewers who don't know, can you define what an F-32-9 is?
F-32-9 is the clinical diagnosis code for depression based on a single event.
That is such a misinterpretation of what major depression single episode means. No. If anything, this is an adjustment disorder with anxious mood.
That's an F-43-20. 2020?
But it's like too little information to assess. And as we said on last week's episode, I'm not here to diagnose or assess, but in terms of diagnostically, but what I did see, what was so apparent is Will's attachment style. He is very clearly and anxiously attached individual, and his anxious attachment system was completely activated when Kylee was, well, in this situation with Kylee in general, but specifically when Kylee was on this date. And he is like, we're seeing all of the anxiety and insecurity get stirred up because, Kylie's not there.
He continually demonstrates an inability to adjust even to things that he should be expecting or things that are within the realm of predictable.
There's a lack of resiliency.
Lack of resilience entirely, yeah. And he's just got to work on that because it doesn't speak well to how he's going to respond to true adversity and to true trauma and trials and tribulations as life happens. He's not providing for himself at this moment in time. And I think that's a big problem that he is having.
No, I agree. He needs to learn how to cope.
Yeah.
For sure. So let's get to the Paradise Bonfire, first ever Paradise Bonfire. What stuck out to you in the bonfire? What revelations?
Well, so I love the idea. I love the idea. I was a little disappointed there were no marshmallow. I'm a marshmallow fiend. I love them. I was so sad that there was not a single marshmallow to be found with a fire. Huge miss. I'm just going to say it now. Thorn for the week. Lack of marshmallows. I know I'm skipping ahead. Thorn for the week. No marshmallows. Bonfire. Huge miss. Production. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Now, I thought the most surprising, how honest a few people were. We got some bad answers. We got some real bad answers. We got some good answers, but there was some good honesty there that didn't need to be had. Take Braden and Kat. Braden gave a nice, solid answer. Good for you, Braden. You passed the test. Just move on with life. Stop talking, move on. Go over to Kat. All she had to do was mimic what Braden said. Failed the test. Didn't understand the assignment. What are you doing?
But the objective was to be honest.
I understand that the objective is to be honest. But at the same time, this goes back to the Avan Kylee thing. Avan's not here. Why are you talking about Avan when he's not here? Like, and maybe this is a play because Kat was, if I say somebody here, I can get out of this dinky relationship with Braden and I can get somebody I really want because I'll create drama. I understand it's a gamesmanship. Maybe that's what she was doing, but who's she going to mention? Tanner, whoever Tanner is. I don't know. Seems like a tall guy. Yeah,
he's a tall.
He seems like a tall guy. We see from the previews who's coming in, Tanner. So now I wonder, maybe some of these people are in relationships that they don't really want to be in. They're there strategically, and they were taking this as an opportunity to be honest, to get the producers to throw them a bone.
Well, I think that they are in relationships that they aren't sure about, and they were giving themselves an out. They're setting it up for a breakup later. Yeah. So in that sense, it was playing the game a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So who jumped out at you, or what revelation jumped out at you?
Yeah, definitely the Kat one.
Kat with a K.
Kat with a K. I guess I want to touch on the Aaron B, Eliza, Mercedes triangle because Hannah had asked Aaron like who he has eyes for on the beach. And
so for the quick backstory, basically Aaron B, who generally on first impression gets high marks from women as being a nice guy and relatively handsome. So seems to make a good first impression. Night one, meets up with Mercedes. They have a good conversation and they make out. Day two, ghosts her. And I mean, they're 10 feet apart from each other. So like, I don't know how you succeeded, but you actually succeeded to ghost somebody who can physically see you. Mm-hmm. Impressive.
Right. Low character moment.
Low character moment. Absolutely. Yep. And now we're at the bonfire and Mercedes is kind of like, what happened here? Mm-hmm. And
Well, and I
He
guess
tells Eliza in the
go ahead.
pool after, they're hanging out all day. He's really trying hard to get in with Eliza, and he ends up telling her, and she spirals out because of something that happened in a previous thing where she was part of a love triangle in the past, and she kind of spirals out a little bit. She seems to recover, come back, and they seem to be on good footing. Mm-hmm. Now we're in the bonfire.
Yes. Speaking about Eliza, this might sound mean, but it did annoy me when she started crying about the love triangle, because it reminded me of last season, the love triangle she was in, and she was so emotional. It was, again, spoke to the lack of maturity on Eliza's part in the way that she handled the situation. And so there was a part of me that was like, oh gosh, here we go again. But I thought Eliza showed a great amount of growth in her maturity this season in the way that she was able to just speak directly to Aaron, be upfront with how she was feeling. And then, like, again, vulnerability, that seems to be maybe the theme of our 2 sets of episodes this week. She flat out says to him, she has this realization, like, while she's externally processing this with him and saying, like, I don't think I realized how much I like you until, like, just this moment when I'm talking to you about that. And that's a really vulnerable thing to say, especially to someone who is potentially interested in someone else. Sure. And so I really appreciated seeing that from Eliza. And again, a year, a lot can happen in a year. And it seems like she has increased in her maturity level. So Hannah B asks Aaron if there's any woman that's caught his attention, essentially, and he says only one. And
he tries to be coy about it. Mm-hmm. She doesn't let him off the hook.
Right, which I love her for that. And so he confirms it's Eliza, no acknowledgement of Mercedes. Doesn't actually appear that he's talked to Mercedes at all. Again, low character moment.
Yeah, I thought the whole Aaron situation definitely misplayed a lot. When he first came down to the beach, he was the first guy there, and he was there alone with 3 women. And one of the women had said to him something like, I had spoken, or I'm friendly with the Bachelorette from your charity, and I basically already got the dirt on you, more or less.
Well, what was interesting, hold on. Yep. What was interesting is she said that, and then her face to camera said something like that implied that the dirt she got from Charity wasn't positive, because she had said something like, but he was actually a nice guy.
She qualified it then, saying, like, I was not expecting him basically to be a nice guy, is the connotation that was there. And it wasn't really clear to me. But then if you remember, he had that bout of insecurity when Kylee got pulled in episode 1. I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's what we're talking about. But I think now we've seen 2 episodes in a row of 2 low character moments. This one is quite low. It's still not clear if he's talked to Mercedes or not.
So in the bonfire, there was some kind of attention paid to Peter and his situation as being the only guy on the beach that doesn't have a solid connection, which we see really play out the next evening, day 3, which is the cocktail party and the rose ceremony. And one thing that I had said to Chris, which I'm not sure if you all know as viewers, is that on the days or evenings when there is a cocktail party, that the men and women are actually separated and they don't speak at all. And so no connections have been furthered on this day. Their opportunity to, like, have these last minute conversations is just in this cocktail party situation. And so I think that's why we see, like, these, couple of women, like, really trying to, like, make their play at Peter, because it's now do or die.
Yeah, it was very clear that he was the only wild card remaining. All the other guys were pretty much already paired up at that point,
except Will, which we'll get to.
Except for Will, exactly. But we'll talk about this in a minute. But I thought Will had a very obvious decision that he was imperative for him to make. He failed, by the way. But I thought he was more or less off the table for other reasons. What I thought was actually the most surprising is we've seen Cat with a C, Greer, and Brooklyn have done nothing. They have made no discernible effort that we can tell. I mean, Greer's big flirt was, I sat on Peter's back while he did push-ups. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking was going to happen, or like, why were they even there if they were going to put in absolutely no effort whatsoever? The only person who's really making an effort in a play to get a rose is Mercedes. And she doesn't even go to Pete. She goes to Will, which we can talk about in a second. That is probably the most surprising thing for me. Is here it is, Pete, and Pete knows he's in the catbird seat. He is enjoying every moment of this. And yet these girls, just none of them get aggressive.
They're very passive.
Very passive.
And Pete, God, the confidence of a man, I swear. He has these 4 other women. Nah. He goes after
I'm going to go after Sam.
The one that already has an established connection.
Yes. Yeah. So I may have a lot to say about Pete, but you were telling me when we were watching that apparently during he was a night 1 person, but apparently during his season, all the men hated him.
Yes.
Completely hated him.
Hated him so much. And we learned this on the Men Tell All of Charity season. Hated him so much that in their Instagram captions at the bottom, they would all put FP, which stood for fuck Peter, because they hated him so much. And in this episode, we got a little,
we all understand why.
Cue on why.
It's so interesting because I almost wonder as I watch him, he's clearly just playing a game. He's playing a character. He's looking to create drama. We all know people like that. And I almost wondered, was this intentional? Did he sit around and let everybody else get paired up, knowing that he was sitting on a rose and he could really just enjoy this? I think it's an interesting dynamic because he was a guy who went home. He clearly has a massive ego. He clearly wants some clout and clearly wants some attention. And he went home on night 1. Is this his way of basically saying, I might go home. I can't go home on night 1 because I got a rose. I might go home on night 2, but I am going for broke. And I'm going to make sure that everybody knows, Pilot Pete 2.0 before I go. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I don't see another way to understand this.
Unless it's complete lack of self-awareness. Maybe he thinks he's charming.
No, it felt pointed.
Yeah.
Like it felt like that was his intention. And what was even a bigger turnoff for me is that
the dancing behind him.
I mean, that was just like so
over the top.
Chris had said, like, is he drunk? No, I don't think he was. He was just being an asshole. Yeah. And again, immature. And that's why this was an extra turnoff, because he's 33.
Yeah.
And so I expect more from you, Peter. You're a pilot. You carry.
Do you want to be on his flight?
You carry so much responsibility. It is not easy to become a pilot. You literally have people's lives in your hands. You're better than this. Like, what are you doing? As a pilot, you have to keep your composure. What the heck? What's happening? So there's no other way to understand his behavior here other than it was calculated for screen time to get a villain edit. Sometimes people want that because again, you're memorable.
Yeah.
So I'm out on him.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. He goes with Olivia. And so let's just talk about Olivia very quickly. Will needs a recovery arc. A redemption arc, recover. He needs to save face because he has screwed this up so badly. And he needs some endearing quality to come back. I don't find him particularly endearing. The proper way for him to have done that would have been go into the rose ceremony, call Olivia's name, and say to her something to the effect of, this rose is not for me and you. I know that I screwed up. I feel bad about that. You deserve to stick around. I'm giving you this rose with no intention that you and I will ever try again. I'm giving it to you because I feel bad for my mistake, and this is my way of apologizing, and I want you to have another shot and not go home. That was the proper thing to do. That's what I would have done in that. I mean, I wouldn't have put myself in that situation, but if I found myself in that situation, that's what I would have done. I don't think that there's any other proper thing for him to have done. Thoughts?
No, I mean, you paused the episode to basically say that. And I totally agree. That would have been such a great thing to see. Again, there's precedent on this show of people doing that.
Okay. Yeah.
And yeah, I think that would have been a really nice thing to do. I don't know what would have happened if Mercedes didn't make a play.
Jump in, make a play. Yeah.
I don't know what Will was going to do.
So let's talk about the Mercedes Will thing. Obviously, they're into the cocktail hour now, or the cocktail party. And they, she realizes that she's on the chopping block and she's got to make a play. And she basically, undefended. None of the other girls, all the other girls are making like token, kind of passes at Pete. Nobody's even looking at Will.
Mm-hmm.
Shockingly so. Maybe they all assumed the same thing I assumed. Like, there's no way he can't give it to Olivia. He was an asshole. But Mercedes, the only one who takes her shot.
So Will demonstrated, again, this disproportionate level of emotion. And again, this is Mercedes saying, I like you. I think we have a connection. And he is sobbing, crying in the fetal position.
In the fetal, yeah, exactly.
Again, it shows insecurity. It shows his attachment style,
his willingness to just believe it right away.
Yes.
Without any question. Yep.
Just like this desire, and he even said it feels so good to be chosen. Yeah. And so that, like, for me, that is like what the therapeutic work with Will needs to look like. Is what core belief has you internalizing that you are not worthy, that you are not enough, because that is clearly what we're seeing come out here with Will, like that it gets to this level of emotion and investment in a connection, just with the littlest hint of interest. So I'm worried for Will. Like, I really am, because I don't know how genuine Mercedes was. Like, if we were to grade the game, like, Mercedes, A+. Good job, girl. You did it.
I have her on my grade the game. So you're giving her an A+. I'll give you my score for her in a little bit.
But I don't know. I don't know how genuine of a connection it is, or how more gamified it was. But yeah, Will's reaction to that just, again, made me concerned for him and how he will, like, and if he will be able to thrive in dating and in a relationship. He just seems so not ready. There's so much self-work to do.
He has qualities about him that result in people not wanting to respect him or not giving him a lot of respect. And it's not because he's not a nice guy. It's not because he's not genuine. It's the inability to regulate his emotions.
It's yes, it's that. But it's deeper. It's a deeper cut than that. It's about Will's devaluing of himself. Mm-hmm. That is the issue here. That's where the lack of self-respect comes in, is because he does not value himself, and that he's able to just like that, like, mm-hmm. get into like this deep emotional state with someone shows this lack of value of self. She's not done anything to you other than say, I like you. Mm-hmm. What has she actually done for you, with you, to actually demonstrate this level of investment? Nothing. And that demonstrates the lack of value, lack of self-respect.
Yeah. And the reality is, you can never expect somebody to value you more than you mm-hmm. value yourself. Whenever I do any sort of business consulting, the first thing I do is I say to the client, I am not going to care more about your business or your situation more than you care. You have to demonstrate to me that you care, and I will match the level with which you care. And I'm very blunt about that. But we're all ultimately doing this at a subconscious level in most of our interactions. If you don't care about yourself, other people aren't going to care. If you don't care about your space, your home, other people aren't going to care.
Mm-hmm.
We all are doing this subconsciously. We are evaluating how somebody thinks about themselves and their property or their whatever. And then that's a cap. We are going to put a cap of how much we care based on how much they care.
Mm-hmm.
And Will's cap is very low.
Yeah. So I guess we'll see what happens with them, but just going to the rose ceremony, we see, so Aaron B gives a rose to Eliza. Aaron S gives a rose to Sam. Sean gives a rose to
Rachel.
Sean gives a rose to Rachel. Blake gives a rose to Jess. Braden gives a rose to Kat. Will gives a rose to Mercedes, and Pete gives his rose to Olivia. So those are our 7 couples that we have right now. Oh, and sorry, Avan gives his rose to Kylee.
Yeah, the 8 couples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then obviously we have Greer, Kat with a C, and Brooklyn going home. No
Mm-hmm.
big shocks there.
Right.
There was a lot going on in this episode. It was really kind of a bit of a roller coaster. Mm-hmm. There was emotions all over the place. Mm-hmm. But when you compare it against the Golden Bachelor, like Golden Bachelor had some real, honest, raw, deep emotion. I feel like all the emotion in Bachelor in Paradise, it was all surface level. There was no depth to it. It was just, it was drama almost for drama's sake, and it was a roller coaster for right. the audience. But I don't feel as though I've grown as a person experiencing that.
Well, that's not the point of the show. Like it is, I mean, that's why the intros are so cheesy. Like it's not supposed to be that serious, but I think we can still, as we have like today and last week, like we can still glean lessons or understand certain concepts or relationship dynamics through the lens of the show. And that's what I really appreciate about it.
Shall we grade the game?
Sure.
So Aaron B, he's started his own little love triangle. Eliza seems in on him. Mercedes has moved on to Will, presumably.
I'm going to give him a C-
okay.
on the game. Good for you for getting 2 women to be interested in you. Bad handling of it. But what I mean by bad handling of it and why his grade is so low is because him being honest about what he had done with Mercedes threatened his connection with Eliza. Why his grade is so high is that it actually worked out in his favor, and he ends up with Eliza, at least for now. So yeah, C- for Aaron B. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm a D+, similar reasons. So I think this is a classic case of won the battle, about to lose the war. I would not be surprised to see him go home in the next rose ceremony when the women have the roses. He's already set himself up with multiple low character moments. And I just think he's an easy replacement because there's always going to be the insecurity there. There's always going to be the looking over the shoulder and the whatever. And that's going to get real tiring real fast. Our favorite from the episode, Peter. Have to do Peter.
I'm so conflicted on this because I feel like there was a strategy in like hanging back and not forming having the power of the rose. He played the power of the rose to get himself in an advantageous situation where he had 4 women who were vying for him. So I think he played the game. He played the game of roses well. But I think he played the game of relationships pretty poorly.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted on this. I think that, like you said, played the game of roses extremely well. But this is another case, is kind of an Aaron B situation of did he win the battle and is he going to lose the war? I think the first thing is that he had a major low character moment. The whole dancing around, doing the thing with Sam, that is just a bad look. And people are going to remember that. The guys already are on record hating him, not just from his season, but the guys here have already demonstrated they do not like him very much. He's not going to find allies or friends there. He's just now taken literally shot across the bow with Aaron. The way Sam responded to him did not indicate that she thought very highly of him at all. The only saving grace for Aaron B might be that people hate Peter more.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what happens next week when the women have the roses, like how Peter plays the game then.
Yeah, I think Peter, it's unclear what his motivation is, but it feels nefarious. It feels like he's looking to get a villain. He wants to make the name for himself as quickly as he can because he knows how fast you can be off one of these shows. And I think that that's what he's angling for. He's clearly not there to find a romantic relationship or anything like that. So, what am I going to give him for a grade? If we're grading him in terms of finding a romantic relationship, F. If we're talking about grading him on just like how he's playing the game of staying in this competition to the end, D-. If we're grading him on how are you getting what you want from this experience? He's an A. I think he's getting what he wants: name recognition and notoriety.
So let's wrap it up. Let's do a quick rose and thorn. What was your rose and thorn this week?
I already said my thorn is the lack of marshmallows at the bonfire. Huge miss on my part. What about you? My
thorn was Braden's rubber ducky earrings.
Oh, we didn't even talk about those. Not good.
I just, the rubber ducky earrings with the rubber ducky bathing suit. I hate a matchy in that way.
Yeah.
So that was my thorn. Just like a little too on the nose with the earrings.
All right. So, Rose.
Obviously Hannah Brown gracing us with her presence.
That coming. Yeah.
Coming back to Bachelor Nation. Yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that was probably a highlight for many of the female audience. It's very clear that she is an iconic figure for you ladies.
My runner-up, Rose, was the amount of joy it got me to watch Avan struggle opening.
That was
the champagne bottle.
So my rose is actually right there with you. I loved that he called out Kylie's thirst trap pictures right at the start. They were on the boat. It's like, oh yeah, I saw you with pictures at the gym. It's like, yeah, I saw your thirst trap pictures. Mm-hmm. I love that he called it out for what it was.
Yes. All right. Well, next week, as I said, the women have the roses. So that will completely flip the dynamics. And so that'll be really interesting to see. And so we'll be back with episode 3 of Bachelor in Paradise. Once again, please, if you haven't yet, hit that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit the bell icon so that you are reminded when the next episode drops. We'll be back next week with more. See you then.
See you soon.
Bye.